Hello, class. Okay, so I am so happy that we have the technology available these days so that we can do something like this where I can teach you a lesson remotely. And I'm sad that I won't see your faces, but I'm really happy that we can still kind of be together virtually. So this is actually the third time I've tried to record this. I thought I was pretty tech savvy. Turns out I'm not. I tried to record it on my computer, and it didn't work. Somehow it says it's there, and then I try to play it, and it's just like a frozen image of me the whole time. And then it plays a little bit, but there's no sound. So I don't know. I'm using my phone now, so I think I've got it rigged up correctly, and we're gonna try this again. So I've already created my example piece to show you guys, and it was supposed to be that I did this one together with you, but I'm actually going to make another one. So you get to see, this time you get to see it beforehand, and then we'll make another one together. So this is what we are going to create today. It is a landscape. I'm calling it Thinking Spring because it's like a spring wildflower landscape, like a meadow. So we are going to be using a couple different techniques that you should already know how to do from previous lessons. One of them is wet on wet flat wash. Another one will be lifting, wet on dry, where we, the paper is dry and we regular just paint on it. And what else? I think that's it. Oh, and the other thing that we're going to add today is we're actually going to be adding some detail, little fun pizzazz with a fine tip Sharpie. So this picture is going to be a little less realistic than some of the other like still lifes and landscapes that we've done in class in the past. It's going to have more of a whimsical, fun, kind of like book illustration type look to it because of those outlines that we're going to do. So there's lots of different styles of art. This is one of them. Maybe you'll find that you really like doing stuff like this a little bit more than the realism that we've worked on before. But it's really good to practice all the different kinds of art making, and then you gradually figure out what your style is. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to start by doing a background. That will be the sky and the ground with wet on wet wash, and then we have to dry that with a hair dryer, and then we'll go on to the details of the flowers. So if you haven't already, you need to gather your art making materials. So in watercolor class we need our paints, our paint palette, we need a cup of clean water, we need a paper towel, and we need brushes. Alright, we are going to do a big wash on the background, so you want a bigger brush for that part and then a smaller brush for the details of the flowers. So I am actually going to pause the video for a moment so I can gather my supplies. We'll see you in a minute. Okay, so I have my water, I have my paintbrushes. I'm using this size for my wash and this size for my details. For the interest of time and cleaning up, personally I'm going to just use the cheap watercolors. You are free to, if you have one of these, you can use it if you want, but you're going to get better results if you use your tube watercolors that you should already have with you, because you have them for our class. So this tray actually doubles as a palette, which is kind of nice. So when I mix my colors, I am just going to kind of dab it in there and put them over here. So first step, make sure my paintbrush is clean, otherwise you're going to get a dirty sky. I'm going to dip my brush in some water, and I'm going to start wetting my paper for my wash. Now let's see, I'm going to pause my video and see if I can rearrange it so you can see more the actual art that I'm making instead of just my face. Okay, we're gonna try that. And okay, so first step, I am doing my wet, just water to start my wet on wet. I'm not gonna do the whole paper because then by the time I finish the whole paper, the top part is gonna start getting dry. And then I'll just have to start over again. So I'm wetting it enough that my brush glides nicely over the paper, but not so much that my water is starting to pool in little puddles. We don't want puddles. Okay, so that's about half the paper. That's where I'm going to stop. Now I'm going to use some blue, and for you using the tube watercolors, you are going to use, rather than the phthalo blue, you're going to want to use the ultramarine blue because that is just a better sky color. The phthalo blue has a lot of green undertones to it, and that just doesn't usually look like sky. Okay, so I'm going to do the whole sky with this blue, but I'm going to leave spots. Sorry, it's hard to multitask. I'm going to leave spots white. I don't want to do the whole thing blue because I want it to kind of look like there's some little clouds in the sky. Happy little clouds, right? I feel like Bob Ross today. Alright, so I've already decided that I don't like what's going on up here. I want more clouds on that spot, so I'm going to do some lifting. So I'm taking my dry paper towel and I'm just going to, because this is already very wet, I'm going to soak up, just dab the spot where I want a cloud to show up. Over here too. Just going to be a cloud there, and because it's a paper towel, it's already kind of got that cloud fluffy texture, which is nice. Okay. Add some more water down here, and back to adding some more blue. Now you'll notice that the blue starts to, at least mine starts to separate. So there's some purples almost coming out. Because this ultramarine blue has more of a purple undertone. This is about where I'm going to stop with the blue sky. I want it to blend into the next part, so I'm going to add just water now and finish wetting the rest of my paper. Now I'm going for my brown and green. I'm going to start at the very bottom of my paper with just brown and work my way up, cleaning off my brush because I'm going to switch colors now to green. So clean, swirl, remember how to do that, swirl, tap, dab on your paper towel. Now I'm going to my green, and I think that this green is a little too bright, so I'm actually going to mix a bunch of brown into my green before I even put any on my painting. Now, just like we left spaces of white for the clouds, I'm kind of leaving some brown and spaces that are just brown, and some that are the mix of green and brown, and some that are kind of just green. Because I kind of want it to look like there's some dirt showing, but a lot of it's covered with grass. I want that line between the sky and the earth to actually be pretty fuzzy in this painting. I don't want it to be really defined, so I'm adding more water here to let it kind of fade away in the background. A little more areas of dark green. I'm not worried about, I'm trying to make sure that I don't have brush strokes, but I'm using my brush in a horizontal stroke fashion. Like pretty much all the strokes that I just did were all back and forth across the paper this way because it's a landscape, and that's kind of the natural curve that you're gonna see. You don't see a lot of up and down with a landscape except for when you're doing the details like the trees and things that are vertical, but the ground itself and the sky kind of goes across the page. So I noticed that I'm kind of getting some puddles right here. I'm going to take this dry brush and soak up some of that water in those spots so that I don't get a line where those puddles are. Actually, I think I need to take more drastic measures. I'm going to grab my paper towel here and lift and even swipe it across a little bit just so that I don't get vertical lines, because I was just telling you how I want to keep everything horizontal. Okay, so now I'm not quite satisfied with my sky. I'm going to add a little bit of blue right here just because I lost some just now when I was swiping. Just a little. Okay, now I like it, and it's ready to dry. So if you have a hair dryer at home, you can use your hair dryer, and it shouldn't take more than a minute or two. I'm gonna dab up some of these puddles. If you don't have a hair dryer, then you can wait for it to dry naturally. The air will dry it, but it will just take a little bit, so you'll have to come back to it. So I'm going to pause the video once again and go dry this and see you back once it's dry. Okay, so my paper is dry. I can hold it up. It's not going to drip anywhere. I can rub my hand over it. It's not wet at all. That means that I am ready for the next step, which is to create our flowers. So I want you to think about wildflowers, and if you were to go into a meadow and look at wildflowers, it's going to be different than, say, your mother's garden that's perfectly, you know, she's got all of them perfectly set and they all go together and they're the right heights. Well, wildflowers, it's kind of anything goes, right? So I want you to create a variety of flowers. I want some of them to be big and bright, some of them to be little. I want them to kind of fill this whole meadow, okay? The other thing is I want to see some space, some distance. And you know how we show distance in painting? It's by putting things that are close to us, bigger and at the bottom. And then as we go up the page towards the sky, things get littler because they're farther away, all right? So I want your flowers to start out big on the bottom when that's close to us and get littler as they get farther away. So by the time you're up here, they're kind of just little dots. I have a visitor, just a minute.
What were you talking?
Okay guys, my kids have told me that they're going to be completely silent and not talk, but they are on the floor behind me, so if you see things moving, that's them. And if they're too distracting, I'll make them leave. Alright, so before you start your flowers, again, I want you to use a variety of colors, I want you to use a variety of shapes, and I want them to be big on the bottom, going towards here little. Don't press the button. They don't need to look like real flowers at this point. We are going to add detail with the Sharpie marker. Right now, I just want you to think about kind of blobs of color. Think about when we looked at those pictures that Monet painted, how his flowers and things didn't have defined edges. They were kind of more about color and shape. So they're not going to be really defined picture of flowers. There should be kind of blobs of color that will turn into flowers later. All right, so think of blurring your eyes, like if you crossed your eyes and looked at your picture and how it's kind of fuzzy and not defined. That's what I want your flowers to look like right now on here. All right, so I'm going to pause this video and you need to wait, Luke. I'll be back. I forgot to show you guys, I showed you on the first video that didn't work, but I brought Bob. He's joining us today in our lesson, and I wanted to see what he was going to say for today. He told us to make some nice little clouds that will just float around and have fun all day. And I hope you did that, because we're done making clouds now. Bob's gonna go over here so I don't knock him over.
Where? I see Bob.
Hey. Okay, class, we are ready to paint our flowers. I am going to do them on video. And you can paint along with me. I might speed up the video afterwards when I'm editing it, so it's not so long. But you can always pause it if you need to catch up. So here we go. I'm gonna start with some orange flowers. That one was very vibrant, but I kind of want them to be not quite so dark because I want to do that Sharpie over top of them afterwards. So see how they're kind of just blobs right now? And I actually am going to lift a little bit of color from here so that I can put a flower there and it won't be so dark. So, see how I lifted that spot? Now we can put a flower and it will stay vibrant. Play with your colors. Don't have to stick with just the pure color that comes in your tube. You can mix them and make some fun things. You know what? I want to lift that part too so I can get a vibrant red there. See how much more vibrant that is now. Some blue and purple. These ones are smaller than my other ones and they grow in clumps, I decided. see that I've filled up my space, my meadow, with lots of different flowers. Some are big, some are little, some are warm colors, some are cool colors. Now I'm going to go in and add some grass and stems. So I'm going to take my greens that I already used, but I'm going to have them not be quite so diluted, so it'll be a little bit darker. And I'm going to add some grass and stems, bigger down here and littler as I go up, just like we did before. Okay, so I believe I am done with the painting portion of my work. Now it needs to dry again so that we can do the details with that Sharpie. I'm going to use my hair dryer quick and be right back. Okay, so you can tell that I dried this. There's a little sheen right here, but I think that's mainly because it was just really thick paint. It feels dry to the touch. I can touch it and I don't get anything on my hands. So now I'm ready to use my Sharpie, and let's find that. I'm going to use this fine tip Sharpie. It's not, there we go, ultra fine point. So you can use that, or if you don't have that, you can just use a regular ballpoint pen. Or if you really like how your painting looks without any Sharpie, you can leave it like that. It's got kind of an impressionism look to it because of the blurry edges that we did. So I'm going to come in and I'm just going to take the shape, this kind of blobby shape that I made, and I'm going to start by outlining it, and then I'm going to decide where the middle of the flower is and where the petals kind of are. So it kind of feels like the petals are right here. All right, so we are all done with our meadow of wildflowers, and I hope you enjoyed this watercolor lesson. Again, I am sad that I don't get to see your lovely faces, but I'm happy that we have found hopefully a way to still kind of be together. Please send me pictures of your finished pieces because I would love to see them. Have your parents either take a picture and text it to me, or you can email it to me. Your parents should have my email and phone number. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I can't wait to see your pretty flowers. Thank you guys. Bye.